In 1876, under a blazing Montana sun, a Lakota warrior stands fierce on a ridge, overlooking 1,200 teepees and 20,000 thundering horses. Custer, the Golden Peacock, struts in a velvet scarf, charging 260 men against 2,500 warriors. His guns jam, his plans shatter, his ego soars. Dust erupts, men fall, and a saber breaks in the dirt. Why did he crash so spectacularly? Unravel Custer's absurd fall, now. 5 Reasons Custer Fell at Little Bighorn, a thrillingly absurd saga. The Montana sun blazed like a cosmic spotlight on June 25, 1876, casting a golden glow over the Little Bighorn Valley. On a dusty ridge, a Lakota warrior named Thunder Hawk steadied his painted pony, his ochre-streaked face glistening with sweat. His feathered staff danced in the breeze, overlooking a village of 8,000 souls, as historian John Gray chronicled. Smoke curled from 1,200 teepees, a defiant nation of Lakota Sioux, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho. Across the valley, 20,000 horses grazed, their manes a rippling ocean that stunned U.S. Army scouts. This was no camp, it was a fortress of resolve. In the village, a young Cheyenne woman, Starling Feather, 19, sharpened her knife, her eyes blazing. "We fight for our children," she told her brother, Swift Claw, among 2,500 warriors. Sitting Bull, 45, burned sage, his vision of soldiers falling like grasshoppers vivid. "The Wasatch break their promises," he growled, recalling the 1868 Treaty of Fort Laramie, shattered by gold-hungry prospectors flooding the Black Hills, 15,000 by 1875, per Deadwood's ledgers. Across the valley, Scout Amos Finch, his blue coat in tatters, scribbled a frantic note, 2,500 warriors, maybe more. He handed it to Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer, 36, who strutted like a golden peacock, curls bouncing under a wide-brimmed hat. Custer read it, laughed, and tossed it into the wind. "Poppycock," he declared, adjusting his velvet scarf, a gaudy flourish he'd worn since his Civil War days. "I'll carve my name into history by dusk." His 260 men, weary from a 70-mile march, stared in disbelief. Why such arrogance? Custer's hubris was a supernova, blinding him to danger. He craved a solo triumph to eclipse his fading fame, ignoring General Alfred Terry's stale estimate of 800 warriors. Custer's ego was legendary, but absurdly so. He'd once bragged to his men, "I could rout 1,000 savages with a butter knife." Now, he envisioned a parade in Washington, medals pinned to his chest. As his men trudged down the Rosebud, Scout Mitch Boyer warned, "This village is a monster, General." Custer waved him off, polishing his boots mid-ride. "I've faced worse," he boasted, though his men, hungry, sleepless, doubted it. The valley, with its 50, 100-yard wide river and 100-foot cliffs, was a trap, as Robert Utley later wrote, a defender's dream. Thunder Hawk, watching from above, spotted dust rising. "The peacock comes," he muttered, galloping to warn Sitting Bull. Could Custer's vanity have doomed him? What drives a man to ignore such odds? Dawn broke, painting the plains crimson. Lieutenant Charles Varnum, 27, slumped in his saddle, his eyes burning from a 60-mile ride. Leading 15 scouts, Crow trackers like Half-Yellow Face and Arikara couriers like Red Star, he was tasked with finding Sitting Bull's camp. The scouts, wise as the wind, read the land like a sacred scroll. Varnum, a West Point dandy, was half-blind to its signs, his spectacles fogged by dust and fatigue. In an absurd twist, he'd misplaced his spyglass, replacing it with a cracked monocle he'd won in a poker game. At 4:30 a.m., they crested the Crow's Nest, 20 miles from the village. Half-Yellow Face froze, pointing to smoke curling skyward. Below, 15,000 to 20,000 horses blanketed the valley, a living tide screaming a massive camp. Varnum squinted through his monocle, seeing only a blurry haze. "Nonsense," he huffed, adjusting his ill-fitting hat, which promptly fell into the dust. Mitch Boyer, a half-Crow interpreter, grabbed Varnum's monocle and gasped. "It's a nation, you fool." The camp stretched 3 miles, teepees nestled among cottonwoods. The horse herd signaled 3,000 to 6,000 warriors, dwarfing Terry's 800 fighter guess. Varnum scrawled a note, "Large village, huge herd, 20 miles out," but, in a comical fumble, he used a half-torn map, smudging the ink. Red Star and Bull galloped to Custer by 7:30 a.m., delivering the soggy warning. Custer, preening in a mirror, scoffed. "Scouts see mirages," he told aide William Cook, who tripped over Custer's discarded scarf. "Why such poor intelligence?" The Army's scouts were sharp, but officers like Varnum were comically inept, as Nathaniel Philbrick noted, "Without scouts, commanders were blind." Custer's reliance on outdated May 1876 reports, estimating 800 warriors, was a farce. Terry's planners, sipping tea in forts 200 miles away, had no clue of the tribe's unity. In the village, Sitting Bull prayed, "Wakan Tonka, guide us." Starling Feather, beside Swift Claw, notched an arrow. "Let the Wasatch stumble," she said. Black Elk's cry echoed, "They come." Dust rose, blue coats, led by a peacock. Varnum's blunder left Custer blind, marching into a trap. How did such shoddy scouting fail Custer? Could clear eyes have saved him? The sun scorched the 7th Cavalry as they trudged down the Rosebud, their horses stumbling on grassless plains. Custer rode ahead, his velvet scarf flapping like a flag of folly. At 36, he was a legend, but his 600 men were a fractured mess. Captain Frederick Benteen, bitter from Custer's Washita betrayal, muttered, "He'll abandon us again." Major Marcus Reno, 41, seethed at Custer's fame, his mustache twitching with envy. Their 70-mile march since June 22 left men hungry, each lugging a Springfield, 100 rounds, and 60 pounds of gear. The pack train, 130 men, 24,000 rounds, lagged like a sleepy tortoise. Varnum's smudged note confirmed the village. Custer, meant to join Terry's 2,000-man column, chose to strike alone, splitting his force in a move as absurd as juggling torches in a storm. Benteen took 125 men south, Reno 175 to charge the village, Custer 210 north, the pack train dawdling. Why divide against 2,500 warriors? Custer, dreaming of a solo parade, believed the tribes would flee, as at Washita. The terrain, bluffs, ravines, hidden fords, was a nightmare, as Gregory Michno wrote in Lakota Noon. Boyer warned, "This village is a beast." Custer, polishing his saber, laughed. "I'll slice it in half." In the village, Crazy Horse rallied warriors. "They come to steal our home," he growled, his single feather gleaming. Starling Feather gripped her bow. "Let their pieces fall," she said. The village was a fortress. The river, 50 to 100 yards wide, guarded the east, 100-foot cliffs loomed west. Warriors, 1,500 to 2,500 strong, moved like shadows. Custer crested a hill, the village below. Dust rose south, Reno's charge began. A scout pointed north, where warriors massed. Custer, adjusting his scarf, grinned, blind to the shattering puzzle. Why split his men? Was division his doom? Midday, June 25. The sun blazed at 80 degrees Fahrenheit, baking Reno's 175 men as they forded the Little Bighorn's 50-yard span, shedding wool jackets. Reno, no Custer, led companies A, G, and M, expecting to scatter the village. Instead, they met a maelstrom, 1,200 teepees, 4,000 to 8,000 souls, 1,500 to 2,500 warriors. Hundreds surged forward, wielding bows, tomahawks, and Winchester repeaters firing 12 to 16 rounds to the Springfield's 1. Starling Feather loosed an arrow, striking a soldier. "For our kin," she screamed. Swift Claw fired, dropping another. Reno formed a skirmish line 300 yards out, 131 shooters, 44 holding horses. Their Springfields, dubbed Popguns by warriors, jammed with greasy cartridges, forcing soldiers to pry them out with knives. Warriors, with Winchesters, 25 to 30% had them, per soldier accounts, unleashed barrages. Outnumbered 7 to 8 to 1, Reno retreated to a cottonwood grove, then bolted for the bluffs. Chaos reigned, 40 men fell, 13 wounded, warriors harrying them up 200-foot slopes. Survivors dug in, Custer unseen. Private Taylor gasped, they swarmed like hornets. Wooden Leg boasted, our guns sang victory. On the bluffs, Reno's men panted, ammo low. Dust rose north, Custer's fight. Where's the general? A trooper muttered. Below, Crazy Horse rallied, shouting, crush them. Starling Feather, bloodied, rode beside him. The army's popguns, firing once every 10 to 15 seconds, were a cruel joke against repeaters, as Utley noted in Cavalier and Buckskin. Reno's charge collapsed, a spark in a powder keg. Did shoddy weapons doom Custer? Could better guns have turned the tide? Dust choked the valley as Reno's men clung to the bluffs, Springfield's coughing. A cry pierced the chaos, Crazy Horse is coming. The Oglala leader, 35, stormed in, Winchester raised, rallying 1,500 to 2,000 warriors. They encircled Reno, repeaters outgunning carbines. Reno's line crumbled, 40 dead. North, Custer's 210 men fought on Last Stand Hill, surrounded by Gall's warriors. Hoka hey! Gall roared, lance bloodied. Custer fired pistols, shouting, hold fast. Within an hour, all 210 perished. Why did Custer fall? The terrain was a traitor. Ravines hid warriors, cliffs blocked retreat, the river a moat, as 1876 maps showed. Custer ignored Boyer's warning, split his force, and underestimated the tribe's unity. Starling Feather tended Swift Claw's wound, her hand steady. Singing Deer sang victory, but Sitting Bull warned, this is not the end. The triumph was fleeting, by 1877, most tribes were on reservations. Yet Little Bighorn was a cry for survival, etched in courage. How did the land betray Custer? What does this saga teach us?